When Joseph was just 17 years old, his older brothers ganged up on him, stripped him of his clothes, threw him in a pit, and then sold him as a slave to Egypt. And while he was a slave to Egypt, his master's wife tried to sleep with him. And because he was a righteous man and didn't want to sleep with his master's wife, he ran away. So she accused him of sexually assaulting her. So then he was thrown into prison. And now while in prison, two of the king's servants, the baker as well as the cupbearer, were thrown into prison for displeasing the Pharaoh. And they both had dreams, and Joseph was able to interpret those dreams, and while they happened just as Joseph interpreted, Joseph had asked them, "Please remember me when you go back into Pharaoh's service." Now the baker was killed as Joseph prophesied, but the cupbearer was spared. But when the cupbearer was reinstated with Pharaoh, he totally forgot about Joseph. So Joseph was just left there to rot in prison. Now after some time, the Pharaoh had dreams or visions from God, but no one among Pharaoh's courts could interpret them. Then the cupbearer finally remembered Joseph, was like, "Hey, there's this Israelite who can interpret dreams." So he was brought before Pharaoh, and when he had interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh, Pharaoh was so pleased that he set Joseph over all of Egypt to be the number 2 man right below Pharaoh. Now at this time, Joseph was 30 years old, so this was 13 years of suffering. Now Joseph, for these 13 years, was betrayed by his brothers and sold as a slave, betrayed by his master's wife and thrown into prison, betrayed by the Pharaoh's cupbearer who forgot him and just left him to rot in prison continuously. Now these 13 years, there was no build-up, there was no hope on the horizon. It was just 13 years of betrayal after betrayal after betrayal of complete darkness. If he even were to unalive himself, it wouldn't be a strange thing to hear about, that he had given up all hope. But he persevered through 13 years of suffering. And after that, he was the wealthiest man on the planet. When the Egyptians, when the entire world went through famine, who was the one that saved pretty much the entire population of Earth by storing up during those wealthy years? It was Joseph. It was Joseph that was able to feed the Egyptians. It was Joseph that was able to ultimately feed his own family who had betrayed him in the first place. Now, you might personally be going through your own darkness. You might be going through your own version of these 13 years that Joseph had struggled with. And maybe you don't see a buildup. Maybe you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I tell you what, neither did Joseph. So I ask you, I beseech you, don't give up. Even if it looks hopeless, even if it looks like you're just surrounded by darkness, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. There's no way Joseph knew the day before that the following day he would be set over all of Egypt with rings and clothing and wealth beyond his wildest imagination. Your life could change just like that as well. So don't give up. Keep the faith. Be steadfast. Even when no one is looking and no one will know. It all matters. It all counts. God is with you, encouraging you. And because of that, I am certain you will emerge victorious.